first of all, I want to thank Edward because he got this whole CISO roundtable going for us, and this is the 40th episode or 40th session we have done since we started. Edward was one of the first panelists who is here today again. So I told him we have to celebrate the 40th one by having him from Logic and Rohan. Rohan is here first time, and appreciate your coming over. So just to give you a quick background, the idea was to have a session based on, this idea kind of inspired me on after COVID. We felt like when instead of having these, like you have these, physical meetings and you meet people, network, and exchange ideas. So we thought, why don't we create an interactive CISO roundtable rather than just a couple of panelists talking about it? So, and that way we also bring in, a lot of other founders as well as other CISOs who have been joining and participating in it and then providing their insight. So that's why we call it interactive. So our goal is to engage as many, folks who attend to provide their perspectives or ask any questions. So that's the basic idea. And we generally keep it around three themes. One is just mostly we discuss about the CISO's role, which, every time. And so it's CISO's role, how it's been evolving over past 5 years now and where it's going. As you know, the whole industry is rapidly changing and innovating nowadays even with AI. It's just mind-boggling. So that gives a good perspective how their roles are changing in the organizations. Then second, we focus on the current, some particular area of cybersecurity. Like today, we'll focus a lot on the agents, on the security operations centers type of use cases, and we obviously have an expert also, Deb here, who's founder and CTO at NVIDIA Logic, and they focus a lot in that area, as well as then Rohan and Edward are CISOs, veteran CISOs. So with that, what I would like to do is just introduce. So Edward Fry here. Edward has been CISO for a number of years, and so currently he's at Luminary Cloud. So Edward, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on your background for the folks who don't know you.
Sure. So, as mentioned, I'm the SVP Security and Compliance here at Luminary Cloud. I've been here about 2 years. Prior to that, I was at Ariaka Networks as the CISO for 5 years. 2 years head of security for Elementum and 3.5 years head of security for Blue Jeans Network. So this is my fourth CISO gig, if you will. And Luminary Cloud, we're doing physics AI, uh, simulating physical things, digital twins, and heavy AI kind of use.
Thank you, Edward. And then we have Rohan here. Rohan is CISO at ChargePoint right now, and brings tons of experience. So Rohan, it'll be great if you can tell us about all the great things you have done.
Yeah, thanks, Naveen. Hi, nice to meet you. Rohan Singla, I'm the CISO and head of IT at ChargePoint, responsible for everything related to enterprise security, platform security, be it hardware, software, from a product perspective. We have a lot of charging stations. ChargePoint, for people who don't know, we are more into the charging, the EV charging space where we have home chargers, commercial chargers, L2 and L3. So we have, quite a few chargers out in the field. Securing them is obviously a challenge. And then the cloud side, we have more than 5 million drivers on our app. AI again is part of my remit and scope, and all of us know how AI is expanding and the challenges it all brings from an AI governance perspective, adoption of AI, as part of my IT role. So all that is something we are working on as part of my charter, right? Prior to ChargePoint, I was with different consulting firms. I've been with Deloitte and with Grant Thornton, where I've helped a lot of customers globally for 10 plus years in Europe, and then for the last few years in the US with their digital transformation roadmap, with cyber transformation roadmap. Started my career as a developer slash ethical hacker, and then moved into incident response, where I've worked on some of the biggest incidents, the credit card breaches back in 2016, 2017 of the world. And then slowly, gradually, into the risk landscape. Uh, Look forward to the conversation, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you, Rohan. And then we have Dr. Dev Banerjee. As I mentioned, he's also a veteran of the industry, and currently he's co-founder and CTO at NVIDIA Logic, which is a leading company in the health SOC area. So I would let Dev, if you can speak a little bit about yourself for folks who don't know
Yep.
you.
So as Naveen said, CTO co-founder Anvil Logic, we are a Series C company, more like pre-Series D at this point. We've been building out this SOC platform, a modern SOC platform that's sort of essentially built across multiple data lakes. We have modern SOCs now we see adopting, going away from a single data store for all events and alerts to multiple data stores. There's a Splunk plus a Snowflake, Databricks, S3, and so on. And we are the security analytics layer across these data lakes that customers can use for detection, investigation, and triage. Focused heavily on enterprise. And of course, now with LLMs, and it gives a great handle on reducing complexity, building out the AI SOC layers for detection, investigation, and triage. So exciting times, lots of things to talk about in terms of new directions and trends in SOC and cybersecurity technologies, and looking forward to today's conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Dev. Appreciate it. So let's start with the first our theme, which is the role of CISOs. As you know, even and it's, I think, evolving very rapidly, including even you might have seen even our Department of Defense has given a notice to Anthropic to to let them, and I guess relax their guardrails so they can use it. They have a notice till tomorrow. So how do you think, where do you see, maybe Rohan, you can start off, as you've been from even audit company to these technology companies, that how the role of CISOs have evolved, or from like last 5 years, and where it is, and where do you think it's going?
Yeah, no, good question, right? Security, I feel security has always been in a catch-up mode with a lot of things that have been happening. We've been behind the curve where with engineering, be it with infrastructure, the pace at which applications are being rolled out, which is where detection and response becomes critical. Now, especially with AI coming in, the pace at which applications are being rolled out and the pace at which changes are being brought in has increased 5x or 10x. So how does security, be at speed with them? Which is where the CISO's role has evolved over there on how can we still be an enabler? We don't block things. How do we ensure that AI is adopted safely, securely? At the same time, we create more awareness. I think one thing that is something which is changing in 2026, I feel, is awareness is coming back, where security awareness was a big thing. Now more so AI awareness. How do you adopt AI safely? Training employees. For me personally, with the IT side of the house as well, we have to teach users on how to use AI, how to make effective use of AI to do your day to day. And then with your security hat, how do you securely use AI? And another thing I see is the IT and the security worlds colliding, right? So the CIO and the CISO roles are merging, at least in the Bay Area. That's been a common theme and a trend where the CISOs are also the CIO, uh, and or the IT team reports into the CISO. So which is very unusual if you talk to someone in the Midwest or on the East Coast, right? It's going there as well. I see those trends, but not as much as the Bay. I'll probably take a pause. Edward, if you want to add something, and then we can take it from there.
No, I just wanted to kind of agree. I've seen the flip where organizations, the security team used to report into the CIO, and I've seen that over like the last 10 years in maybe mid-size or smaller kinds of organization where the whole thing flips, and the security team is becoming more prevalent in the IT team than and the CIO kind of reports into it. Either it becomes a single role or IT reports into security. I've only been here on the West Coast, so I've only seen it um, in this and within the communities that I'm fairly heavily with. Um, but definitely seeing that kind of trend. One thing that I think is I've seen in a couple of organizations that I work for is security can actually help lead some of the way by um, providing some of these tools, some of these applications, and then again, like you said, training people how to do things securely with those coding tools. Um, in the AI company, it moves way fast, though.
Yeah, yeah. Another thing is around AI governance, right? At least for us at ChargePoint, AI governance is right now part of the security charter. So, my security and privacy team, we are responsible for defining the safe adoption of AI from a policies perspective. And I see more and more CISOs getting involved over there from a governance perspective, and then making sure the board is aware of what is happening from an industry perspective as well. Uh, Another question which came up, at a different forum, was around speed and innovation and how does the CISO role evolve with AI? I think over here, as we've always known, right, security has been seen as someone who blocks innovation, or that is at least the perception. But from our perspective, we don't see ourselves like that. The common example I've heard is security is more like brakes in your car, where we help you drive faster. So, yes, that is where I feel the security role is going to go from a risk appetite perspective, helping you adopt more, be it from an AI perspective or even in general. I think the basic principles of implementing your security, be it encryption, vulnerability management, identity, become more critical in today's world if you want to adopt AI more. So that is where the security teams need to focus more and ensure they have defense in depth. And yeah, so that's where I see the CISO role shifting a bit slightly, not too much, but yeah, as long as the basics are covered.
Thank you. Deb, how about, I mean, you obviously work with a lot of
Yeah.
CISOs, CIOs, and the,
Yeah.
in the security operations side. How have you seen more from Edge dealing with them? The roles have changed over last
Well,
5 years. And yeah.
yeah, in the enterprise land, certainly, I mean, some of the old problems remain that too many tools and not enough analysts, right? You know, you'll hear about enterprises with 30, 40, 50 tools on average, CISOs and having budgeted. Now, operating that many tools successfully is a significant project and requires dedicated analysts with deep expertise. That remains a challenge, I think, and it has been a challenge for a while and continues to be a challenge, I think. And these tools are complex, and unless you operate them successfully, your detection and your alerts, and your responses will not be good, really. The process and the people part is super critical here, remains a problem, and in cyber, it has continued to remain a problem. Now, AI kind of becomes another sort of separate dimension to this problem, actually, now, because and some of you mentioned, Rohan, Edward, that you have governance issues here now. You open up MCPs, you open up wide access to your internal state. You're not really certain which analyst has access to what kinds of data, which customer, which people, how sensitive, and how much of the data is being sent out to those frontier public models actually. Was there customer data in there? There is a lot of concern about that. People appreciate the power of AI, but there is great concern on what are we getting into and how, can we get badly burned actually, and how do we prevent ourselves from being badly burned? And, the CISO clearly owns some of this decision. There is great pressure on him from the boards and above. Go, invest in AI and save money, save people, whatever, save, if you're not using AI, you're behind actually. So there's great pressure to go adopt AI, but clearly it adds one more sort of, a dimension to the complexity of tools and people that they have to deal with.
Thanks, Deb. So just before we move in, maybe, I think we have some other CISOs also in the here in the attendance, like we have Randy. But anyone else wants to just chime in before we jump into the next one in terms of the CISO's role, how you have seen changing over there? the
Yeah,
intent going forward, since you bring in a lot of CISO experience, CISO CIO both?
I can chime in if that's okay, Naveen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
please
I'm
do.
Randy Barr. I've been a CISO for over 25 years, and I've seen a lot of changes over the years. And what's interesting about where we're at today, I agree that small to mid-sized companies, the CISO owns IT. Enterprise levels, they become a peer to the CIO. And what has changed over the years, actually more recently than anything else, is the risk appetite of AI requires us to allow for more utility versus security of products to accept into an organization. And we see that with the more recent news about OpenClaw. OpenClaw is an interesting solution. It provides a lot of utility, not a lot of security, but there's a lot of security risk associated with it. Recently, they announced a CVE that has a high risk of a vulnerability for somebody that has OpenClaw on their device, and they just visit a website and it automatically takes control of your device. Now, OpenClaw did a great thing where they remediated that vulnerability within 24 hours, but it puts us as security professionals in a position of, is 24 hours enough? It's going back to what was said earlier about catching up in security, it just changes our whole perspective on how we remediate vulnerabilities. With AI, accelerates the bad actors to be able to gain access to systems a lot faster. So we have to change our whole approach on remediation, as an example. And the other part, the part that we're struggling with is that we are in the middle of allowing a company to innovate versus securing that company. And so that's kind of the changes that we're seeing, or I'm seeing recently. And so that puts us in a position of, boy, we have a lot of work ahead of us as security professionals and trying to secure an organization that wants to move fast, and they really want to move quickly on introduction of anything that would accelerate their business.
Anyone else? Like I see Jason also here. Jason, how are you? Maybe you can
Yeah,
introduce a couple of lines and
sure.
then, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Jason Texan. I am the Senior Director of GRC and IT at Techion. I've been in the industry for over 20 years. So yeah, just to echo the statements, the evolution, I agree, has especially for small to medium sized, the convergence of the CIO and CISO role has converged. And in terms of AI adoption, I think this is such a hot topic. It's everything is happening now at machine speed. So for security teams, the evolution and how do you combat threats that are happening at machine speed is something that most security teams are dealing with, and how to address those. The second piece is around responsible use of AI tools. I think that's what I'm seeing that's very pervasive today. A lot of users who are being tasked with adopting AI, or companies that are being asked to adopt AI, are having challenges in how do you educate your users on what you can upload and what type of information can you use. So that's one of the challenges that I'm seeing. So lots that's happening in the space, but I think the risk appetite again falls on the shoulders of the security teams and the IT teams, because we have to be viewed as the enablers and not the blockers of innovation. So again, it's a difficult time right now, especially with companies adopting AI the way they are.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Okay, let's move to the next key topic, more from on the AI itself. So I think I would like maybe Dev, one thing will be good is for some of the folks just to kind of how you look at it. Number one, can you define what you mean by agents or agentic AI? And then secondly, and how do you see, I mean, what actually makes an AI agent different from traditional automation or ML detection in your kind of environments? And what has surprised you most when autonomy has entered the
Sure.
SOC workflow?
So, I mean, the power of generally LLMs is sort of planning and reasoning that they can do. You can give it a high level problem and it surprises you as to how it can break it down into steps and actually go implement steps. And what we are seeing in the current generation of agentic systems is taking workflows, let's say SOC workflows, detect workflows, investigate or triage workflows, breaking them down into instructions which may be implemented by a team of agents, And each of these agents will implement some of the workflow steps that are very precisely sort of described to them. And they have access to tools. And this is the super important part, that LLMs don't know about your SOC. It doesn't know about your events, your alerts, your workflows, your CMDB, your identity. It knows nothing about that. So if you ask general LLMs about detection or investigation, it gives you plausible answers. If you look at them, they look close enough, but they will not run in your environment. And some of the areas that a lot of these AI SOC vendors, including us, are investing is building out this, what we call the enterprise security graph, actually. What is the state of your SOC in terms of knowing your schemas, knowing your events, knowing your alerts, knowing your sort of workflows, and making them available to tools, to these agents, to these LLMs, actually, right? You can think of the LLM basically as a set of prompts, a set of tools, and then kind of active management of this context window that we do. It does surprisingly well, actually, if you got the context right. So there is some technical details about getting the right context at the right time to the agent, and too little context, of course, you don't give it enough information about your world, is going to mess up. Too much context is also a problem. If you give it too much information, it gets confused. So there is this right balance of context management, and you hear about context window, context engineering and so on. So that is the current state of the art. And, there are vendors who are doing detection engineering, investigation, triage, analysis of alerts, and responses are certainly another very hot area. And on the enterprise, on the buying side, there is great interest. I mean, we talk to enterprises, there is great appetite to know more about it, great appetite to see demos, to even look at POCs. But there are these underlying concerns around governance, actually. Like, there are AI committees in every company now, actually. Often, the practitioners or the SOC may be very agreeable and they may appreciate the technology, but there are these, governance committees separate from the SOC, who often get into very detailed analysis of exactly, what access controls exist, what data is being, sent to where, how a PII is being extracted. So governance, there's a great concern about governance that in some ways slowing down adoption. Actually, we see often in some of our conversations, adoption of, certainly AI SOC technologies, slowed down by sort of this, fairly elaborate governance process, which is good in a way. We do want, as I said, guardrails and safety out here. But the net of it is that, one of the reasons, you have the alert fatigue problem in the SOC, too many alerts and not enough eyes to go figure out those alerts. Do I need to do something about it? Some of these new generation of technologies, I think, will dent that problem and will successfully reduce these, the alert fatigue problem, as among others. So certainly, there is, as I said, great interest, and we have already, we do see a fair amount of, of these agents in production in the SOC, but there'll be a lot more happening the next 12 months. I expect to be a fairly steep uptake out here.
Thank you, Dave. So Edward, what is any from your side? Have you seen number one, if you'd like to define how you look at the agents or agentic AI side, and if anything has surprised in your kind of observations?
So I don't have a SOC that's running right now, but we are using agents in a lot of our workflows to go do building our products and managing automation and some of those things. And then, of course, we're building our own agents for our customers to use against our product. I mean, I see, there are some security concerns. Where's the data? Where's it going? Who's going to have access to it? If I'm parsing a thing or doing a RAG or anything like that, or how is it being handled? I do have some AI functionality in my security tools, like my MDR and my CNAP type tools. But lots of things going on.
All right. Thank you, Edward. Rohan, how is your experience are you testing out, or have you done, I mean, you don't have to, anything non-confidential or public
Yeah,
information,
no. I
others'
think
perspectives. You want
AI
to share?
SOC, AI SOC is obviously a big topic, right? Right now, everyone feels AI SOC can replace your humans, your SOC analysts, your MDR, and it will take care of everything. But so, when the buzz started, we started evaluating different tools which can help us because obviously this is a very tedious and a manual task around SOC, the level one triage. So you have to adopt AI and models if it can help you reduce the number of false positives and it help escalate issues which are not really critical but might be critical right from a correlation perspective. That is where models come into play. Uh, so what we did was we were looking out at different tools which can help us either replace uh, our MDR solutions or subset our MDR solutions. One thing which we quickly understood is AI SOC cannot replace humans or MDR. They are something which can be seen more as a co-worker in addition to your SOC analysts and MDR, which is where we ended up pivoting and started looking for partners who have both AI functionalities and humans to validate, results from generated by AI. That is where we are, and we are pretty much on a journey to replace our SOC tool at the moment, along with, our MDR vendor, which will give us AI functionalities along with humans. It is an augmentation of humans with AI.
You know, anyone from the Hemant, would you like to provide your insights or any questions for the panelists? Hemant is also Senior Director of GRC at Digital Turbine. So Hemant, you're on mute if you want to do something. All right. So let's move to the next part of it, which is, do you think these AI agents, especially from Deb, your perspective, like even Rohan mentioned, like a lot of people think that AI will get rid of all the noise and everything else, but is it reducing the alert fatigue or just shifting complexity somewhere else, you think, from an operational perspective? Sorry, we can't hear you. You're on mute, Deb.
It is a layer of automation. I agree with Rohan that I don't think we're at a point where we're replacing people with AI yet. It gives you more power. It does more work for you. It simplifies, reduces the alert analysis problem. It certainly will impact that. And the triage problem remains a significant problem, right? But it's also the case that high quality agents and the quality of the agent will depend on how well, they rebuild this enterprise SOC context, right? It has to know deeply the enterprises, at events, alerts, state data, CMDB, identity, and so on. Because as we all know, skilled SOC analysts carry in their heads all these internal models actually. They can look at an alert quickly and say, that person over there does these things once a month and therefore it is benign actually, right? Skilled analysts can do that. Machines have to learn all this and you have to teach the machine actually, the agents have to be taught this again, built through state data, and that'll be a journey. It's not. I don't think we are getting good at implementing base workflows, right? There are all these exception workflows here, right? That's a Bastion host or that's a VPN server, and they have different profiles, and the machine has to learn about it and react differently to it. Skilled analysts can do that. The agents, are still working towards it, and then their performance will depend on how well they can, discovered these data sets, these system data, these machines and identities, and incorporate them in their logic, right? And that'll take some time. So accuracy is going to be, I think, a moving target. You'll see things getting better, significantly better in the next 12 months, probably. And a lot of this also depends on actually landing in production environments, working with production data, and constantly working and tuning your agents, actually. So it will take time. It'll take some cooking to get there. But it will get there. And I mean, we see early signs of beginning to sort of, dent the alert fatigue problem, but they will get better and you'll see sort of bigger impacts.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So I think Rohan, you kind of alluded to it when you started looking at like the AI plus the human in the loop kind of situation. So that was my second theme here in the questions was trust, autonomy, and human in the loop reality. So where do you draw the line between AI recommendations and AI taking actions on its own? So I think it'd be good if you want to take a stab at it.
Yeah, no, the first thing actually Dave mentioned, right, around alert fatigue and burnout of teams, right?
Yeah.
The within security, I feel SOC team is one. If they have eyes on the glass 24/7, there is a tendency to be burnt out because you can't have one SOC engineer or a team of three or four provide 24/7 support. So how can AI help us, with preventing burnouts of team, and how do they reduce the alert fatigue and help us look at meaningful alerts from all the noise we receive? That is where the human and the AI element come into play. Um, AI for me is enabling the teams, right? It is actually helping us. AI is only as good as the data we provide it, and there was a study done by, I think, Anthropic or someone. A lot of decisions there is a big cry in the industry right now, or even on LinkedIn when I read it, everyone's like, "Oh, we need humans in the loop from an AI perspective. AI should not be approving everything by default. We need humans to approve it." But most of the code that is generated by, vibe coding, none of the humans are reviewing or approving it. It is more the agents, be it Copilot, be it Cloud Code, where they are uh, prompting you, should I approve this or should I create this, rather than a human asking a question, right? So the agents themselves are being designed to prompt a user and to make sure you want to go ahead before a code is being pushed in. Now this is the study, but obviously, until the technology is proven, we do need humans in the loop, and we want to make sure changes are not being made. We are not very far away from a world where we have 1,000 agents talking to each other, right, making decisions with privilege escalations. At that stage, it will become difficult for humans to be in the loop, and if you start coming in the loop, then you're actually hampering innovation on the speed. What is AI bringing us, or the plan is to bring us? It is to bring speed, scale, and reduction in cost. Now, if you have humans in every decision models make, then you're going back on speed, scale, not cost so much, but maybe speed and scale. So you have to let the agents make decisions eventually, when you have other guardrails defined around it, right? Similar to our security principles, where they can't do, where they can't make changes in environments where you don't want them to. And the overall concept and the idea business use case has been well defined, and the guardrails are well defined. I know that was a lot, but yes.
Edward, do you want to add something to on the topic?
The only things that I think, when we are adding the guardrails and that sort of thing, we need to make sure that those guardrails are actually high enough to ensure that the AI doesn't go around it or doesn't do things that it shouldn't be doing. And it reminds me of a story that I read fairly recently where somebody deployed an agent to go do something, but they tried to constrain it so that it was limited and would ask the user, "Hey, I've hit this roadblock. Let me do something." And rather than hitting the roadblock and doing something, it went around the roadblock and created an escalation for itself, and privilege escalated around the sudo command and went and did the things anyway. So you need to make sure that those kind of guardrails and things are definitely in place. I think the speed is definitely there, but you also have to tell it what you're looking for and have the prompts and everything. So if it's making its own decisions and making its own instructions, they can go pretty far, pretty fast.
All right, thanks. Randy, you had raised a hand, so I think you wanted to provide some perspective or some questions, whatever.
Yeah,
Please.
so when I look at SOC in general, I think it's the perfect place for AI to actually enhance the environment. So I agree with the burnout, the alert fatigue, and the alert fatigue usually leads to retention issues. And so with the replacement of AI, I believe that there's a lot of opportunities to elevate the individuals and analysts one to be able to do more. And some of that could be that they are the human in the loop before any changes that come into play. So what I'm looking for on AI is that it generates the playbook. It generates the step that allows for changes or prevention from happening. But a analyst one would review that and say, yes, we're good to go and put it in place. One of the comments I left in the chat is that a lot of the issues with today's SOC solutions are traditional SOC that really doesn't make sense in the AI world. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of information that you got to configure. There's a lot of manual effort that goes into place. You need to have certain professions that are experienced and know how to create all of that. A lot of that stuff can be done by AI. Elevating the analyst one to do something a little bit more and bringing them in to actually do more technical stuff. So I don't believe it's going to replace it. I think it's going to augment the individuals that are in place. And I think it's important to understand, or at least be aware, that when you look at solutions today, if it's not architected in, if AI is not architected in, there's a very likely chance that you're not going to get a lot of benefit from the traditional SOC solutions.
Thank you, Randy. So anyone from the audience want to join? I know Sharath, I think Ritesh, you had a question before you raised your hand. So if you want to introduce a couple of lines about yourself and what your question was, so it'll be good. You're on mute.
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
I'm just in GET. So basically, these words are very heavy for me, this meeting. So I want, in starting, to make it simple, basically.
Okay.
That's the only thing.
I didn't understand your question. Okay, so let's move on to, unless someone understood what it is, I think what you're saying. So now, I think there was another, someone else also had. Sharath Mathur, yeah, Sharath, you were asking about evaluating the efficacy of AI agents in the SOC. Is a concern? Any thoughts around that? So you wanna, so anyone else wants to talk about it, Rohan, in terms of the efficacy of AI in the SOCs?
I think Dave
Side?
might be best suited to
Yeah.
talk about it, actually.
Sure. So, I mean, it's still early days here. We try to see reasoning efficacy actually, because often agents are very white box, right? It's not that you get a black box answer at the end and you have to figure out right or wrong. They kind of give you a reasoning, right? Hey, I started here, I did this, I looked at that, and these are the threat indicators I saw, and these are the events I see out there, and this is what you've done in the past, and therefore this is my recommendation here, right? We get reasoning out there. And we focus heavily on getting the reasoning right, actually, the sequence of steps right. Now, of course, you have to do evals. One of the answers here is that building up sort of test suites, and building up sort of, looking at responses. But reasoning faithfulness, and as we get, and particularly for SOC use cases, the more context we can bring to bear on a particular alert or a particular detection or investigation problem, the greater the accuracy, right? I think the accuracy is dependent on the SOC. As I said, we're trying to faithfully replicate a good and experienced SOC analyst and replicate all the sort of internal models of the SOC he carries actually in his head when he makes a judgment. So replicating that is, I think, for us, one of the key sort of pathways to get to accuracy. The more I can, make available to my agents, the SOC, what we call the security graph, think of that as a context graph, and, with some SOC specific ontology out there, accuracy rises. But certainly in parallel, you got to build up evals, you got to build up test suites out there, and certainly, continue assessing, accuracy directly as well.
Anyone
And
else?
I don't
Go ahead.
think any AI SOC is going to be able to have a solution for every single company. Every company has their own approach. And I think what AI capabilities should bring is the ability to generate some of these playbooks and then adopting that playbook to be the standard automated workflow. And then you're going to have to build around that. So every time there's a new issue or standard issues that everybody experience, try to adopt that workflow. But that that human in the loop is going to be very important to be able to say, we want to automate this process moving forward for these type of alerts. I think that's where the value comes into place, into play. So if we're looking for efficacy or how we're going to be able to implement a solution that gets us to a point that completely eliminates a lot of these threats, I don't think we're going to get there. I think we're going to have to take iterative steps to get in or to implement some of those solutions. And that's just going to take a little time based on every company's approach to protecting their environment.
Yeah, I want to add on to that something that I've noticed with some of my tools and the AI analysis of like an alert or something like that, where, it found, let's say there's a PII and there's a chain of things in that graph that says, hey, this PII is exposed because of this, and this. And so and the ultimate recommendation from the tool was drop the table out of the database. I like that kind of thing. That's why I think the human in the loop is still going to need to be there, because it was an email address, which is the primary key of the thing, and you want me to drop that out of the thing, out of the database. That is not a practical solution for that kind of an issue. It could be remove the exposure, patch the thing, move this over here, reduce the permissions, but dropping the table, come on. So the human in a loop isn't going to go away anytime soon.
Anyone else in the audience? Brooke, glad to have you here. Any insights or any questions you have? I know you're on mute.
No comments for me. I mean, this is a little bit out of what I traditionally do in my role. I handle a lot of security for my business unit. I'm actually a product manager. But I do want to echo some of the things that I heard earlier today that we're also doing is when you're building a new product, the AI has to be part of it almost from the inception. That'll make it much smoother and much easier to implement. And it's also got to be something that employees decide they're going to use every day. Because I've noticed a lot of people falling behind just because they put it off and put it off and are waiting for other people to kind of figure it out, where you really need to be adopting it now as hard as you can.
Thank you, Brooke. Brooke is actually being humble. He's head of products at Rakuten and the cloud division. So, anyone else have any
Naveen, I have a question, Naveen, for the panelists.
Yeah, Devi, sorry. Yeah, please go ahead. Can you introduce yourself 2 lines?
Yes, I am currently working as IT director for a hospitality company, and I deal with a lot of ERP systems. And what I find is when all the AI and all whatever we do, so when it comes to the ERP systems, we hit a kind of a black box. So the transparency that we need to carry out tasks in the system, those systems are still not there. So the agents are not that. It's difficult to build the agent because not a lot of understanding is not available to the outside world. But that's not the question. My question was about to all the panelists, like who all are building AI products or involved in AI development. It is about how they secure the data going from the corporate to the outside models like OpenAI and other Anthropic and other providers. So what kind of security features that are essential that we need to be aware of if we are building, if we are using those services to carry out any AI task? So what are the basics we should be focusing on? Because what I feel is there are local models, local LLMs, and then there are the larger models that are like OpenAI and all. So how do we make a decision between whether to go with the local, which is much more secured, everything stays within, but then when the local cannot deliver, how do we go to the external? So I want to understand the security part of it when we go out of the network to the larger models.
Very good.
So
Actually, go ahead, please, Edward.
yeah, so one of the things, my company is 100% cloud, right? So we're already out there. I don't have an on-prem. The only thing that's in my closet over here is, a firewall and my switch for all my Wi-Fi. Microsoft has moved to cloud. Most people are either on Office 365 or Google Workspace. So those kind of controls, you're already using somebody like that. And so having an enterprise, either a team level or an enterprise level agreement with the vendor, having it set up with your controls in place, that you don't train on the models, you set these things up, and then you say, here, use this. As opposed to, yeah, just go to ChatGPT and you'll be fine. Instead, if you're in an enterprise level, Google, for example, you've already got Gemini built in. So Google has all of your things. They're FedRAMP high on their Gemini models. You can actually lock it down to U.S. persons only, and so then you can use that even in a FedRAMP space. You can use a model there, and it's going to be. They guarantee with that kind of agreement, but then you need to limit it to forcing them to use the tools that you've vetted, the functionality that you've authorized. You don't let them go to, you don't let them use their personal account and go to Gemini and do that if those are your kinds of concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
All right.
this is more dependent on your use cases, right? You need to define your use cases and the business processes clearly. It is no different to the conversations we've had in the past around on-prem data hosting and cloud data hosting. The models we are using, even the local models we are using, we are not going to build those local models. They are models which, maybe OpenAI or Gemini, we are going to use something like that. We are going to use a Cloud Opus over here locally. It comes back to what guardrails, like what are you trying to solve? If you want the data from a GDPR perspective or some other regulation where the data needs to be on-prem with you, or you don't want access to specific applications to be given to a cloud model, that is where you would host it locally, right? But then you're restricting yourself from the power these cloud models bring, like an OpenAI or Gemini, right? You are adding a strain on your team to manage them, and security actually is not as easy as you think. Then you have to add access management for local models. You have to make sure it is segmented from different areas of the network. It's like hosting your own data center. So which is why you have to clearly define your use cases and the business case, and make sure you have the right resources to secure it as well.
And then, in addition to that, if you're bringing a model local, you need to make sure that that model hasn't been poisoned or doesn't have bias added to it. And, is it a clean model? Is it making calls out or to other things? And
Correct.
so now you need
Yeah.
to deal with the vector files and analysis of those. And
Like in this case, right? If you talk about cloud models, you're not completely outsourcing the risk, but you have some faith. You're working with the Microsofts and the Googles of the world, so there is some risk appetite, and they have vetted the product. Uh, if something is to happen, I can't just blame them. I am equally responsible, but I have someone else. But if I am hosting the model and I'm working on everything in-house, the risk is totally on me, and I have to make sure I have done my due diligence.
Okay.
So let me put this question because Deb, so I'm sure you get asked the same question,
Yeah,
right? When you
yeah.
go to your customers. I wanted to see, so how do you kind of handle that situation?
So,
It'd be great to
I think,
hear your perspectives.
Rohan and Edward sort of talked about the policy level questions here, right? That to know what is the sort of policies with respect to security and privacy and so on. We certainly have a set of technical choices here that we offer, actually, right? And clearly, we all agree that the frontier models have great reasoning and planning capabilities that will be very hard to replicate in any hosted model out there. I mean, there is Llama out there. There's some of the other models out of China out there that have certain interesting powers. But we prefer using those now. But we want to be super careful as to what data sets we are sending out there. And generally, we don't want to send event alerts out there to this particular in LLMs. What we often do, and these are the technical choices that we are, constantly sort of pushing the envelope on, is you can use an LLM to generate code actually done locally, right? You can ask it, hey, I have an alert and these are some characteristics here without exposing any PII. I want to do these levels of analysis out here. Generate me some code, actually run the code here, and let's do the analysis over here. That is a technical choice that we exercise quite a bit, actually. So, and particularly at large scale, you can't be shipping. Let's say we are doing, tuning, alert tuning, for example. I can't be shipping all my alerts off to an LLM, right? It's not financially viable, and there's performance questions and ignoring issues of privacy and compliance. So in that case, I asked the LLM to generate analytic code for me that runs locally, actually, in my environment that's analyzing the customer alerts out there or on the customer's environment. So that's a technical choice that we have, is using LLMs creatively so that you get some of the reasoning planning capabilities run locally in your environment. And there will be more of that coming out. I think we are certainly code generation is one powerful way of doing it. Small language models is another dimension. Now, again, it takes effort in terms of tuning and training them, actually, because now you got to put in some effort, to get them right. But there are some narrow sort of specific use cases, again, in triage that we use in classifying URLs and looking at domains and things like that. That small language models are optimal in terms of the effort it takes us to tune them and train them, and what comes out of it, actually the results and efficacy out there. So there are a set of technical options are evolving here to address this concern of security and privacy of LLMs. But no question about it, I think some of the discussion that people mentioned reminds me of the early days of cloud, when big companies would say, we would never go to cloud, our data is too sensitive. We'll never use a cloud-based email security provider. Our email is too sensitive, and everybody's email is sitting in somebody's cloud gateway today, and people are fine with it. And if talking of PI and compliance, that's probably the most sensitive corporate data I think companies have is their emails, and that's sitting out in the cloud today, actually. So I think this is a moving target, but there are some technical options that helps us sort of get a handle on that to address today's concerns.
Thank you, Jeff. That's great. So I think we are almost coming closer to the last point. So we had, number of questions. I think we can continue to go on. But so looking ahead, let's say 12 to 24 months, what is the biggest risk organizations are underestimating when deploying these autonomous security systems? So whoever, Rohan, you want to start off with that, and the signals or early warnings should the CISOs be watching for right now?
Yeah, no, I think, as with time, a lot of these agents will start talking to each other and they will make decisions. Agents are connecting and talking to each other as of today, but imagine 1,500 or 15,000 agents talking to each other, right? And then privilege escalation becomes a big issue, which is where runtime security of these agents is something to be considered. A lot of our traditional security tools cannot, the runtime agent is bypassing a lot of the traditional security tools. So if a decision is made by an agent, if it is connecting to something, those things are not captured by my security tools, which are either on the laptop or on the cloud. So how do we gauge control? How do we identify what data is being transmitted from agent to agent? What identity is it using? And this will become a bigger issue as time goes on. We are probably one agentic breach away when this becomes a big thing. As of today, we are taking it as it comes along. But yes, that is something which is going to become an issue. Runtime agentic security in the next 6 to 12 months, I feel. But yeah.
How about Edward?
Well, I'm
how
gonna
do you
echo
foresee?
what Randy put in the chat there. I think 24 months is way too long because 24 months ago we weren't even here, right? We
Yeah,
were um, you know, hardly anybody was using this. It was it was chat, right? It was asking questions and getting answers. Now we've got coding agents and then it was just like a coding assistant, and then just a few weeks ago it was coding agents. And if we're thinking at timelines of, months, we're way too far behind. Um, we need to be able to adapt and adjust and Opus 4.5 came out, and then just a few weeks later, Opus 4.6 came out. Um, and it's just moving so fast that, if we're not building in the security, and we're trying to bolt it on, and we're trying to add security to tools, um, after the fact, then we've already lost.
yeah. I mean, you just even like just I think today, Block, which is Square's holding company, they just announced 40% layoff, 4,000 people, right? Because of the AI, how it is. I'm sure you're seeing. So, I mean, that's kind of it's moving so fast that, like you said, you're absolutely right that we don't know 24 months, but just wanted to see how you see it. Anyone else? Dev, do you?
So, I mean, agents are, when we think of agents, we are trying to replicate analysts, right? And in a perfect world, agent would have perfect understanding of SOC contexting and come back to that thing and know your environment inside out and know your workflows inside out. And those, where now this will be a partnership between vendors and the, and the SOC, the SOC org actually. Where together, if they can come up with this perfect understanding, agents will delight and surprise, SOC analysts. It'll be a great experience. And to the extent there are gaps where there is one set of understanding about my SOC artifacts, events, data, alerts, workflows, identities and assets that's different from what the agent knows, is going to be chaos and there'll be weird things going on out there. And that to me is where, there will be successes out there between when vendors and enterprise SOCs partner well, and when they don't partner well, there will be failures. And the sort of documentation and standardization and how well they're modeled, in this AI SOC products will be, I think, the critical differentiator for the next 12 months or so.
Yeah, let me just read it to other folks in the attendance. Manish, you have any insights or anything? I know, or you want to just introduce yourself a couple of lines before we just close it off in the next few minutes.
I've got a few seconds left. I'm the founder of Ferrentin. We're bringing zero trust to LLMs and tools. Prior to this, I was at Zscaler doing the privileged access product for critical infrastructure. And I truly believe agents are the new frontier for privileged access. If they touch any tool, if they touch any enterprise data, there's always going to be a risk. And you need to manage the risk using the same zero trust, least privileged access. And that requires a new kind of infrastructure, not unlike what Gartner is talking about. I heard about the runtime risk management. Gartner is talking about TRISM, which is trust, risk, and security management. And I think we're very aligned there. I also want to talk about two big changes which have happened in the last 2 months. We're going from human in the loop to human on the loop. With OpenClaw, people are sending a message on Telegram saying, go do stuff. The models are getting stronger. You're getting one-shot results. So the humans are lesser in the loop, and they're just like observing it. And the second thing is, I'm seeing the use of unbounded tools, which is, Edward, you talked about somebody using sudo. They're assuming the privileges of the user using bash tools or connected on the browser using your enterprise, whatever your password manager. These two are very dangerous. And we want to increase productivity, and you would need a mechanism to bound this. So this is where we're going to go. Will we be completely agentic? I doubt it. You would need to peek in from time to time or just get a feedback. That is going to continue to remain because it's just going to get too dangerous.
Yeah, thank you, Manish. Anyone else wants to chime in? Hemant, Ravi, Sunil? Santu, Pete, Andre, Darshan. All right. So with that, and Clint. So with that, if you and anyone has any insights or questions you want to ask, last call
Oh,
before we
hi,
wrap.
Naveen. It's great to see you run this CISO Roundtable. So I just got back from Vive conference, Vive Healthcare conference in LA, and I see a lot of the with the Deb mentioning about the context, but also the vertical business sector, right? There's healthcare, all these regulated industries. So we see that AI is getting adoption into these regulated industries, but also there's a lot of caution, especially with healthcare with PHI, PI concerns. So, is anybody currently seeing that adoption going past the call center or like member-facing apps into core health tech systems? I think that'll be good to know because I think that was one of the areas a lot of discussions were happening in at Vive, and also I'm going to be at HIMSS, so hopefully we'll see more of AI at HIMSS as well.
All right. Anyone wants to?
So I can chime in on that. I mean, when I was working for another biotech and healthcare or health science company, that was one of the biggest thing is adoption of AI. But that's more to get through some of the big data that we need to get through and understand that data. We didn't do automation in process or workflows. That was an area that we were very hesitant to get into. But with the right publication, the right research paper, you should be able to get through a lot with some of these AI. We're starting to see more of that creeping in, but with hesitation and very mindful adoption of AI.
Thank you, Randy. All right.
Thank you.
I wanted to, yeah. Edward, you were saying something or someone else?
No.
Okay. All right. So with that, I'd like to, thank you all again. Obviously, Edward, Rohan, as well as Deb, and Randy, Clint, Sunil, whoever is here right now, Apurva, obviously for making sure that this runs smoothly, and Brooke for being here, Santu, Pete, Andre, Hemant for being here. We have to bring you on also in the panel next coming session. So please look out for another one at the end of next month. So we hold it every month. And, it's been really insightful and a lot of learning for me itself. Last 4 or 5 sessions I've seen diving deeper and deeper into this whole agentic AI. And obviously, like Edward pointed out, we can't even wait for 2 years. Even I see that how we ourselves have transformed our own platform, which into whole this GRC compliance, risk management, and security area. We are like on our toes, right? Running every day almost with customers, and obviously all of number of you, including Rohan, Edward, and Deb for us, as well as many of them in the team, like Randy. So provided a lot of feedback. So it's been really insightful. Thank you all again. Really, really appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you in future again.